that content creators and influencers who make this their job are going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that this stays their job, which is exactly what she's done, which is exactly what Shane Dawson does, and also like Trisha Paytas. But I'm like, Mia's stuff is like a little bit less harmful than them, I guess.
I'm not black, but I can sympathize for her. We've got the, you should have kept this in the drafts. How dare you cancel my fave? She has more followers than you. Angry black woman response for 10,000, Bob. We've got the bitter black woman response. I need to get light in my heart. Okay. That I'm reaching. That this is just another American nonsense. Then maybe y'all non-Americans should stay out of our business and stop trying to talk like us. And profiting on it without not even knowing any of the trauma behind it.
Had to keep that in for the like vibes for this video. Hi everyone, it's me again, Squish Gang. 'Tis present. I look slayed. And today we're going to be talking about miiasaurous. This was a topic that was DM'd to me quite a few times and in a couple of comments in recent videos. I wasn't sure who this person was, didn't really have much of an interest, but then after watching Peter Mon's video and getting a DM at the same time, I was like, you know what, I'll take a gander because I know that there is a bit of a drive to this channel when it comes to responding to criticism from creators because of my area of expertise. So today we're going to be talking about miiasaurous. There's going to be a couple parts of the video as always as well. Patreon, Amazon wishlist, links down below for socials. I'm going to start linking my email if you want to give specific requests for things, which is miiasfcontent@gmail.com. I'll leave that down below for that as well. And just any sources I use, any of that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into the whole Rhetoric books today because I just don't see the need to for this type of content specifically, but that's kind of what's on the roster for today. The 3 parts of the video are going to be the 2 videos that Mia made, addressing past content and the blaccent, and an apology and the truth. And then I'm going to talk about kind of the public perception and the manufactured personality that resulted in this kind of demise for her. Also, shout out to my patrons. Names on the screen. And with that in mind, I'm going to try to make this not like 6 hours long because my goot, I've been just going off with the long videos lately. So part 1 is going to be addressing past content and the blaccent. So we're going to go through each of these 2 videos point by point all the way down. Okay, so we're going to begin with just kind of my thoughts in order as I was watching it. I heard prior to going into this that the video was all over the place. Peter Mon had mentioned that, as well as a few other people in comments on Twitter, on TikTok, etc. Because all that I really heard about this video was just stuff on TikTok. My expectation was already kind of low, but it got literally immediately lowered when it opens with her adjusting the camera. To sync the audio, I'm going to add in a clip of me cutting the beginning off. And that's just a pet peeve thing. It's when you are a commentary channel and the commentary community points out these weird, disingenuous, consistent tropes that people make in these types of videos, and then you do them anyways. Very weird. I do want to say that this video is doing what, or at least what I'm going to attempt to do, is what Mia said she was doing, but wasn't really, and comments on this in later videos, which we'll talk about. But we're going to criticize more so how she's a fact of YouTube's kind of instant reward cycle and how it manufactures personalities, and how she's kind of just a result of this, rather than kind of openly villainizing the individual. But there also are things that are just a factor of who she is as a person that are going to come into play here that we do need to discuss. I also want to preface, I watched this video on very fast, like 2.3 times speed, because it was 38 minutes, and the second one was 51 minutes long. So there's an immediate ode of nervousness that she has, and she's not looking at the camera. She has a pen in her hand that she's fidgeting with. There's this constant flip-flop between selective ignorance, but also cognizance and self-awareness, which makes this feel even worse because of the moral grandstanding nature that a lot of commentary can take on. And I think even I'm a victim of this in a way where I'm pointing out things about people all the time. Mind you, am I inappropriately DMing minors on Discord? I mean, no. Am I doing the things that I'm criticizing people for? No. But at the same time, obviously there is going to be some moral implications that do come into place when you are talking about people online. One thing with Mia, and it starts very quickly in the video, is she will talk about how the actions affect her, how they make her feel bad. Then next will be and how they affect you guys, which kind of makes the mask slip of the intention around facing this stuff head on in the first place. And I think the issue with that is that this is for her, and it's because she was criticized and she had to face it. She's admitted that she's a liar. She's admitted that this has been something she's been thinking about for a long time. She's admitted that she's been facing these things for quite some time. Yet at the same time, there's just some sort of push over the edge that made her finally comment on these things. But at the same time, this video is the unscripted one. This is the raw reaction. And you can see, based on where she's placing herself as an authority over others, but yet not her own actions, but instead is a victim of her actions as they affect her poorly, it shows kind of the motive in the delivery. At least is what I think from my little $50,000 piece of paper that you can't see that is in Rhetoric, right? Which is argumentation, delivery, and things like that. I can always be wrong. I'm not doing anything based off scientific evidence. I'm not claiming whatever the pseudoscience of body language analysis or anything like that. This is just the way that people communicate. They tend to have their desire or when they are unscripted and everything's paced just organically, the way that you set up your argument where you're putting yourself in the front seat all the time, not necessarily your actions in response to how they affect other people, kind of shows that you're doing this as a response to people hurting your feelings with backlash rather than people being hurt by your actions, and those are two different things. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm trying, okay? She then jumps into the pathological lying issue and how it stemmed from the very beginning of her channel. That there's been so much that has been fabricated. This is just the Tana Mojo effect. There's multiple people that were like this at the time. That's why I'm saying this is that instant gratification thing where you've fallen in love with the lifestyle you've seen other people show through success, that you would rather fabricate an entire life than gamble on people liking your own authenticity for that success, which is wild to me. Like, I'm not going to fabricate stuff for this. I'm not going to change who I am for this. I'm not going to just consistently make content that I hate for this. If YouTube doesn't work out, that's why I'm getting a degree, because I'm not going to sacrifice all of my morals, everything I want to do with my life, the way that I want other people to see me, the way that I want my family to view me, for this idea of wealth and fame that these creators put forward. I just don't think that's the move. She lied about sugar daddies, drugs, used Asian market dried mushrooms as to show she has psychedelics, and stripping. Lied about being bipolar as well. Lied about story times of Melanie Martinez and other ones. Lied about being a hoe. So sexual activity, which is just, she wanted to market herself as Tana Mojo, doing drugs, drinking, partying, being reckless, having this crazy, that's what Tana was known for. She's just marketing herself as Tana. But the thing is, Tana, while lied about stuff, at least personality-wise was consistent. We'll get into the whole Tana thing as an object of the manufacturing of these personalities, which is in the third part of the video. They are chaptered if you do want to skip around, though. So I have quotes and I'll timestamp them. So obviously I'll put them in as well, but I want to say where I'm going with this. So there's a quote where she says, "I'm sorry that I contributed to so much bullshit and made this such an unhealthy place for myself and potentially other people."
Without me changing and doing better. And I hope that this is a part of that. And I really am so sorry that I contributed to so much bullshit and made this a really unhealthy and toxic place for myself and potentially other people. Definitely other people. It was wrong.
And this might be a stretch. If it is, that's fine. But interesting how she says potentially other people. I feel like it's obvious that if you are marginalizing people through stereotypes, that it is them that are affected. It would almost be more potential that it affects you poorly because you got away with it for so long and it lined your pockets. Is that just me? I think this is just another one of those people who wouldn't be famous otherwise. People who are kind of a dime a dozen, and at least now, but when YouTube was growing, it was a little bit less common, so they were able to get into a good place. Her channel looks a lot like my contemporary Zaria's channel, which I'll tag down below because she's not a pathological liar that pretended to do drugs and has a blaccent. Well, she's actually, Zaria's actually a black woman. So I'll tag her channel down below. It's really similar to like what she does as far as like aesthetics go, at least, and everything like that. Even Mia's commentary and the structure of everything is super dime a dozen, which really gives this notion that it's a desire for fame above really anything else, which would lead to the conclusion of the manufactured personality again. She says that she made an unhealthy place on the internet, but she made this unhealthy place herself with standards that she set for herself on how exciting she had to be, on what all the numbers that YouTubers set in their minds. I have numbers set in my mind, and actually I've been pretty stagnant at not meeting them. So, which has kind of driven my own nihilism to the platform. But the thing is, instead of going to these theatrics and lying and stealing other people's attributes and personalities, I'm just going to put more time into my actual job, or try to find something else that I can do and put my time into my studies. And when a video I feel like inspires me comes up, then I'll work with that. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I feel like YouTube's giving people this idea that they could just grind and grind and grind and it will come, but to what cost, right? It's like when Khloe Kardashian, like the grandmother, took a picture of her and she looked like a person, not like a manufactured image. She got really mad and then made her grandma deleted it or made her come off the internet. And then when people were posting it, they were getting like strikes and all this kind of stuff, right? You're fighting an impossible precedent that you yourself set, yet somehow victimizing yourself as a product of that standard. Just because it works for one person doesn't mean you can manufacture yourself into that person. She also apparently lied about someone dying. Only at 18 minutes in did she actually get to the blaccent conversation, which I thought was really interesting. But then before she gets into any of the like meat and potatoes, she goes on this like tangent about being half Finnish and half Asian. So how she's like not black. I don't think you needed to go onto a whole rant about your ethnicity that derails the conversation to support that you're not black. I feel like I use a blaccent and I'm not a black one would have been just really quick and easy, ready to go. You know, I feel like people end up on these side tangents that are unrelated to their message, and it's showing this nervousness and unwillingness to be attached to the situation. It's like when you have a paper, okay? This is the English tutor teachers college thing coming out, okay? But when you have a paper, and when a student has a paper who you know they didn't read the book, or you know they didn't like it or care for it, what typically happens is the sorting of the ideas are poor. And there's a lot of back and forth and swinging between a bunch of different points rather than being able to be in depth and consistent in one idea and one point. This is because you're just trying to build quantity to seem like you have an idea of everything that happens. And this video is kind of just giving like essay done at 11:59 energy. Because then she goes back and forth. Then she goes to the blaccent and then says she has a mental health disorder that has resulted in her fabricating a personality, which I have talked about, but I don't think she fabricated it as a personality. I think she manufactured a career that she set a standard for and pushed herself into that personality. She cites her reasoning as to not wanting to hide anymore. I think what's happening is the pocketbook's drying up, because the idea that she positions herself at the forefront of the consequences but not as much the actions, because even though she goes, I did this and it was wrong, she flip-flops constantly. Like, there's no fluidity to this at all. And even the video where she has a script, she has notes and everything, lacks that as well. That's why I find that this had the backlash that it had. I feel like people will be angry about this type of thing, but then they can't really conceptualize why. Besides certain obvious things like her white fans accepting the apology on behalf of POC, especially black women, the idea that there is, like, it doesn't feel serious. She's swearing all of the time. I love swearing. I'm French Canadian. I love swearing. But I don't sit here and be like, man, bitch, fucking shit ass. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. This is dumb shit, fuck ass, fuck. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't do anything. And my videos, as far as the type of delivery, I think is kind of what she should have been going for, was like a concise, but then not overly scripted way of delivering a responsibility for her actions. And I think it was just, I'm going to memorize some things that commentary channels said were good to do in a video like this. Then I'm going to run around and just talk about it, and hopefully, hope to God, I remember some of these ideas, some of these bullet points that, like, the drama channels will like, that Peter Mon or Spill Sesh or Adam McIntyre or T-Spill or something will approve of, you know? I was going to say, like, PewDiePie or Parasitical, but I'm just stuck in 2018 in my brain, I think, because they don't talk about that kind of stuff anymore. But point is, that's what she's going for, right? Because then we get to the end of it. She says, she gives people the right to be angry, that she'll work on herself, yet there's minimal to no focus. And I said, and I'm going to read exactly what I wrote, I just cannot help but be frustrated with the way she calls it back to herself in an emotional way, but in no such way that's responsible. She calls to emotions, but not responsibility. And then does the, like, she tries to detach herself from the need for the following by being like, you can follow me if you want to, which is just always like a move that I would argue almost is manipulative, because that makes the fans of hers, they give enough people unfollow and they won't see her anymore. So then the fans will then fight for her. I know it's a lot of people that do this. That's what happens. And if you don't believe me, Shane Dawson Stan Twitter. Shane Dawson Stan Twitter will teach you that is, in fact, the reality. And I don't like saying in fact and being like 100% on my shit, but this is one of those times where I know I'm right on that one. So let's get to part 2, the second video, called An Apology and the Truth. So this one doesn't start with adjusting the camera. Does it still have her, like, sitting down? Yeah. So it still has that same, like, authentic editing energy, which is like, no, you can't use your editing to justify how the way that you can't put your own message forward. I suppose that has to be fine. I don't really know. Obviously, this is supposed to be a more structured version of the other one, but it's almost twice as long at around 10 to 51 minutes. And as I mentioned, I had a note here in here too, where I said the editing that's supposed to feel raw and real to me feels disingenuous as someone who edits videos, because, and maybe it's just how I edit, it's more annoying to do that than to clip it properly. Like, she'll clip quickly at her getting up and then snap it back to when she's already sitting down. I'll edit by what sound is coming out, so I'll just clip the whole empty piece out. This is obviously like the very, very semantics here, but it's just this type of editing, at least in what my experience, is harder to do. So she's just trying to make it look effortless, but it's actually a pain in the ass. So that annoys me. And then she talks about somebody named Aquafina. I don't know who Aquafina is. Feel free to educate me in the comment section. Talks about Aquafina's accent for a while in tandem with her blaccent and the way that people misuse these things. I do not believe in bringing other people in to your apology video, even if they're also doing the bad thing, and even if they're getting away with the bad thing that you're doing. I find it so disingenuous to drag someone else in. Like, this is not relevant right now, okay? You contributed to a problem. Someone else being in that problem is irrelevant at this time. So then she lists apologies to specific communities. This is another jot point that I see commentary channels say all the time. So then she's going through the specific communities, okay, which in this she has the Black community, drug users, sex workers, etc. The people that she supposedly like lied about or whatever, right? Which is fine. Again, so similar to the jot points of the commentary channels that I just feel like she's just gathering them in a list. It's when there's no like originality, when there's no difference in pacing, in structure, in content, that is when I begin to kind of question what your motives are in this case. Lists organizations trying to teach people about charities, despite a lot of these, obviously, even just how she describes them being like umbrella charities that like donate throughout. But then when you have those, you have a lot of middlemen, so a lot of money gets lost. And then at the same time, I want to point out that it's philanthropy doesn't, like Peter Mon said this, I want to cite my sources here, but if, like, he made a really good point where he said philanthropy doesn't really matter if you're like bragging about it and you're telling people about it. And I think legitimately working with people, like what you should be doing instead, I think if you're a content creator and you're in her shoes, and maybe this is just a stupid solution and some people will think it's a terrible idea, that's quite possible, that's fine. But I think what she should be doing is collabing with like a POC, maybe probably a Black female creator because of the blaccent that she had adopted, talking about the commentary community and the misuse of it. Platform directly people that support the thing that you believe in. And then she equates, this is just her equating money as action. Because she, in her head, she profited off of it. Thus, she must redirect the profits. I think you created a platform off of it and you should redirect the platform because everybody can see the platform stuff, but where the money's going depends on the charities. Maybe doing both would be helpful. Obviously, I'm not saying don't donate to a charity or whatever, but at the same time, it's just like, what are you really doing here? And then she talks about racially balanced content. She talks about that she made a video, when I say she, I mean Mia, right? I don't know if that, okay, whatever. But she made a video about like Doja Cat and Megan Thee Stallion supporting like, what's it called, a Fashion Nova, Pretty Little Thing. And then was like, I didn't include any white people in it. If you're making an effort to have to include white people in the criticism of this specific thing, I feel like that's in itself disingenuous. Or ever to take a shot every time I say disingenuous, but that in itself is kind of weird. Like, you should just be criticizing the action. Like, if you feel like you're degrading Black women as a whole, that means the way that you're positioning this is wrong, right? I've commented on people of color, mostly white people though, because you know, but let's say like, I hate to say it, but like CNMA is technically, you know, not white as far as I recall, right? But I'm not bringing in this whole like, I have to compensate now and talk about a white woman because I talked about CNM. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't really fit. It doesn't really make sense. And I find that is one of that's like a huge like white savior complex talking point. And I feel like doesn't actually do her any justice in that way. Yeah, it doesn't want to live in black and white, wants to live with a nuanced take, but will make things not gray when they can't be. And as I was saying, is that this should be an element of negative behavior, not of negative people. And if it's negative behavior, the behavior can be seen as bad or good. And obviously when you have like serial repeat defenders, for lack of a better term, like James Charles, CNMA, Jeffree Star, Shane Dawson, the latter like that, then that's a different story. But if you're talking about something like the Shein conversation, you don't make the video about Megan Thee Stallion and Doja Cat. You make the video about Shein hauls. And then you talk about, you know, when you're rich and thin and have access to things, then promoting that is just lining your pockets in a negative way. And then you can say, for example, Doja Cat, Megan Thee Stallion, etc., and then work with that. Just weird. It just sounds like you're just trying to balance it for the sake of like coming off as not racist, and that's cringe. I don't know how else. Like, if that's what you have to do, it's because you're doing it wrong. I don't know how else to phrase that, to be honest. And then the next thing, around 26 minutes. 26 minutes in. We're only halfway through. I'm gonna, like, the dot shots for this I actually have are quite minimal because it was just so annoying and long and like not the vibe. Yeah, so I sped up a lot of things. I have very few dot shots of the video because it was full of nothing. But at 26 minutes, she provides context of where the line comes from. She starts at like kindergarten and then talks about, oh my god, it was, okay, well actually wait, oh my god. Now I'm starting to feel disheveled like her, even though I have all the points. It's because it was just so wild to watch. She says the following: if you can relate to these behaviors, you should get help.
In a way, because I feel quite guilty talking about myself. But hopefully you can, if you're interested in listening, you can kind of just aim to maybe understand where this is coming from. And then also another disclaimer, if you can relate to my past behaviors, anything I am doing, what I'm about to say, I really suggest that you get help. And maybe you can't get help right now. Maybe you're not feeling like you're strong enough to do it right now. Maybe you just can't accept these things. But you know what? You've already said that you can relate to me if you do, if this applies to you, of course. But that in itself is a step. And I hope one day you have the courage to keep going forward and to keep making decisions that will better your life and the people around you. Because I was so hurt, and to be honest, I think I am still hurt. I don't think that ever goes away from what has happened to me, that I inadvertently hurt people, and I chose to do that.
Girl, you're not a professional. You don't know these people. And this is giving bizarre projection. It is giving, let me save you by me, your big role model, being able to acknowledge that these feelings are bad or these actions are bad. And then because of and the only reason I sound so upset about it, because obviously like telling people not to lie is not inherently a bad thing. It's the type of actions that she's describing are just so, but she's essentially using personal anecdotes to try to prove that she's knowledgeable, which is not a good idea, I think, dare I say. She goes back to kindergarten, talks about saying that a kid talks shit about her parents or something. But then she says one that hit me right in the like, huh? Like, I don't, describes defaming a teacher through manufacturing fake evidence of a relationship she had. And then she, at the same time, took this personality that she had to manufacture a personality for YouTube fame off the backs of marginalized people for profit, and is now grandstanding that other people need to seek therapy if they're like her. Then describes BPD and lying. This is one of the only points that I'm like, okay, you kind of have like something in the sense that she said like, please don't equate BPD to these behaviors. But then how she sets it up by saying that, oh, I had BPD my whole life, probably after stating the behaviors does essentially equate the two, but we'll ignore that, I guess. Then she said she's 22. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22, you know, because I am. But like, I don't know, on one hand, I expected her to be way older than me, maybe because the era of YouTube that she was on. But then if that's the case, so she was in high school when this was happening, and some of her videos said 5 years ago, which is when I was in high school also. We were the same age, so of course that makes sense. Where are your parents? Like, which I get falls into, she says she has a bad relationship with her parents, and that falls into a lot of this. But there's just so many things that she could have mentioned or fixated on that were clearer and more genuine Instead of just being like, I'm a pathological liar, but you need to believe me for 50 straight minutes. Says she doesn't want a savior complex, but the first half of the video was charity education rant. And then ends the video by essentially doing like a get to know me. I like death grips. I like makeup. I'm gonna move to Paris because I like fashion. It's like, what? What? So she started just saying everything I've ever done is fake. And you're gonna get to know me right now. But you need to believe me right now though this time. Like for real, for real. Which by the way, she put in a commentary video on CNMA like 3 minutes. Like I opened her channel and I saw it pop up. So she needs to moral grandstand off of somebody who's like worse than her after 2 disaster videos. Like that's really what it feels like. Because like Sienna's kind of the bottom of the barrel, you know? As you can see, like even the content that I made. Like if you're gonna be better than somebody morally, odds are it's Sienna. You know? So it's like, okay. That's where, okay. We're gonna get into the part 3 with the perception. This is already longer than I wanted it to be. The main issue that I discuss at length is I have tons of videos on this. I'm actually gonna, you know what we're gonna do really quick? We're gonna read titles of the videos that I've made that could relate to this. Okay, because at this point, it's like I've talked about it ad nauseum. The Trisha Paytas effect is one of those, the trolling idea. The Sienna May's cancel culture narrative. The loss of boundaries on social media. I have a video called Social Media Algorithms and the Promotion of Outrage Content. That's another one. Tana Mojo, the embodiment of the modern influencer. That would be very specific to like this type of issue that she's having. There's so many videos that even I've made, let alone like hundreds of other creators that are just saying, essentially, if it was 2016 and you were a girl, you were going to tell fake storytime videos, or you were going to be, if you were rich enough, you made lifestyle content. You had enough money to have all of the EOS lip balms and the other things that they had. I don't really know. I didn't have internet yet. Infinity scarves, or is that too early? I don't remember. But regardless, if you had money, you made lifestyle content. If you didn't have money, you lied and made story times. And if you were a guy, you did gameplay commentary or straight up commentary videos with face cams and no chins. And that was the avenue of YouTube. And that was the cycle that it was manufacturing. Now, it manufactures political leaning content to some extent, pure drama content, but it's a race to who does it first, and you only have like a 2-day turnaround on things. Or you are a vlogger, but that's the if you're rich option. I'll tag those videos down below. I've talked about this with Tana before. The thing with Tana that's worked, and the thing that will not work for me, and this is what's happening right now, is the only people that are cancelable are the ones that give a shit, right? So Jenna Marbles, par exemple, you know, canceled herself because she felt bad about the way that she had acted online. And then who else has had like a really hard time? There are many other ones. It's just Jenna's like one of the most obvious ones. But the point is, or like, you know, even like leftist creators, left-leaning people in general, kind of, there's a lot more antagonization because, which I talked about that in a different video. Oh my God, with the politicalization of social media. Mia is trying to be morally sound while manufacturing a type of content that is the least morally sound type of content that literally is just clout chasing at its barest description, because you literally just make shit up and sit in front of a camera. It's the easiest, most artificial bullshit content. And then it's like, well, no, I'm morally like way better than that. It's like, but then you're manufacturing your personality to that. And you just switched up and just being like, everyone's gonna be fine with it. Wild, wild. There's so many tropes for authenticity that she's definitely picked up off of her contemporaries that she put through to this video. It's just like when James Charles did like apology part, where he was like, you know, he had all the points. He's like, I apologize to this community, and he had all these, or like No More Lies, where it was just like a chart of things that they want you to say, which now has become the new genre of apologies, which I have a video on that also, the rhetoric and impact of No More Lies. That's what I'm saying. But before people keep going, why do you keep plugging yourself? What I'm trying to show you is how this is just the same shit over and over and over and over again. That's why I was saying that this video isn't as much about hating miiasaurous, but more so hating the environment that breeds miiasaurous. That's what I'm trying to say here. Because she even puts herself in a position of authority over others by having like the charities and all that kind of stuff, but then has dismissive delivery, doesn't provide specific actions or video examples, and then uses buzzwords and statements that are coined as appropriate, such as, oh, marginalized communities and I'm off the backs of POC creators. Like, these are things that are true, but it's just the way that she's saying it is very much just like, I'm gonna write down what they're saying and then I'm gonna pop it in the video. And she can say it's not the case, but when it's so, it just feels so bleak. Like I said, uploaded a video on CNMA as I was like opening her channel, which was wild. But to conclude this video that's too long again, miiasaurous is just another result of YouTube's reward cycle and instant gratification. And it just, YouTube's cycle has been like this for 10 years probably by now, just manufactures people off of the backs of marginalized communities, POC people, especially black women. Especially black women. And it's sickening, and it's something that I toggle with in my mind of what's the way that the community would be able to fix this besides just platforming black women appropriately. I try to be as direct as possible. Never fall into a white savior complex as a result. I don't know. Obviously, there's things that I do wrong. There's things that everybody does wrong. But to be just trying to like check a box for your apology and then doing it again but more formal, so you hope that people will would receive it better, which is literally what James Charles did. He had the crying Toddy apology, and then he had the memorialized one, and he did it a second time when he admitted to soliciting images from minors apology, and then the formal one the second time. It's like, at least try to mix, like, you know what I mean, like copy the homework but don't like, you know, change it up a little bit. Anyways, and with the cycle of the YouTube content being off of other people, tons of people are gonna do it. Tons of people are going to keep doing it, and there's just the name of the game is to be able to support and watch the right people. That's as much as I can suggest for that. Anyways, links, sources, Amazon, Patreon, social media, email, yeehaw, whatever, down below. Suggest videos in the comments, DMs. I will read the DM. If you put a picture in the DM, I will not read the DM. Or like if it's a hidden image, I will not look at it, because we've had problems with that in the past. But suggest things in the description, not description, in the comments, in my DMs, in the email, whatever you want. Say hi. Links to books are not going to be there this time, but what's on my face will be down there too. But regardless, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.
Day and night. What? I toss and turn, I keep stressing my mind. What? I look for peace, but see, I don't attain. What? Why need for keeps the silly game we play. Now look at this. What? Madness the magnet keeps attracting me. What? I try to run, but see, I'm not that fast. What? I think I'm first, but surely finish last. Cause day and night, the lonely stoner seems to free his mind at night. He's all alone through the day and night. The lonely loner seems to free his mind at night. At night, day and night. The lonely stoner seems to free his mind at night.